Welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very sensational Marvel Spider-Man related video. As you can see, it is a very special occasion today due to the fact that I am repping the reds and whites, and that is because we do apparently have one of, if not our main few, first legitimate news updates pertaining to not just Marvel Spider-Man, not Marvel Spider-Man Remastered on the PlayStation 5, a console which I still don't have, or even Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but in particular, it does in fact refer to the inevitable sequel with none other than Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Now, if you're someone who has been frequently keeping up with all of my Spider-Man related videos, you would know that this isn't actually the first time we have received an official update pertaining to the inevitable sequel for Marvel Spider-Man, due to the fact that a few months ago, we did receive a full-on official interview in an article with none other than the voice actor of Peter Parker himself, of Yuri Lowenthal, pretty much breaking down where the sequel is in terms of production, and what he actually brought up is that the motion capture aspect of the game hasn't actually been done yet due to the current ongoing pandemic, and just the overall lack of being able to meet up in a studio in person due to social distancing. But for the news today, this is where we get into something pretty darn exciting, and even though it isn't necessarily the individual I would like to see return, it still is the individual representing Peter Parker as of right now. And of course, I am referring to none other than the current character model for Peter Parker within Marvel Spider-Man Remastered and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, none other than Ben Jordan. So, if you do not have Instagram, which I guess if you want to be kept up with Ben Jordan's posts online, go follow him on his account. I will leave it again in the link in the description below. But basically, he did actually post on Instagram a few days ago simply a photo of himself in a studio of sorts with the caption, "Back to work." Now, you might be thinking that this is just a random post that Ben uploaded onto his Instagram due to the fact that his main profession is simply being a model, and due to him just being in a studio ready to do some photo shoots, that could just be some other gig that doesn't relate to anything pertaining to Marvel Spider-Man 2. However, if you do look at the bottom of the photo, you will see clear as day the specific company that he is actually doing a work session for, and that is none other than 3D Scan LA Studios. Now, for those of you who are unaware, this particular company's sole purpose is related to 3D scanning and photogrammetry, who have in fact worked with several game developers in the past, including none other than Insomniac games themselves. And what's even more important is that this Los Angeles-oriented company is only a 15-minute drive away from the main headquarters of Insomniac games themselves, located directly in Burbank, California. Now, granted, there are two different studios for Insomniac that have worked on several different games, one in Burbank, California, and the other one in Durham, North Carolina. However, it was confirmed several times that the Burbank, California studio is in fact the main studio that has fully done work on everything related to Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now, even though Ben's post is as bare bones as it gets, I do think it is safe to say that it surely relates to the overall future of the Marvel Spider-Man franchise and him, in fact, coming back to get working on the inevitable sequel. And in fact, the post in itself does pretty much confirm two major things relating to what the future has in store for the game. The first one of which, of course, and I don't want to cause any drama, is that even though all of us have our certain preferences as to which particular Peter Parker model we do like the most, either with that of John Bubniak from the base game on PS4 or Ben Jordan from Marvel Spider-Man Remastered on PS5 and Miles Morales, is that without a doubt, they are in fact going forward with Peter Parker's character model being Ben Jordan instead of John Bubniak. So for any of you out there who still thought there might be some chance that John could return within the inevitable sequel for Marvel Spider-Man, I do think it is clear as day that Ben is in fact our Peter Parker, and he is here to stay. Now again, I haven't personally been able to acquire a PlayStation 5, so I can't really judge Ben's performance within Marvel Spider-Man Remastered for myself, since I haven't fully played through the game in its entirety. However, I still fully prefer John, but at the very least, I'm still hoping that Insomniac can at least polish Ben's character model by the time they fully make Marvel Spider-Man 2 a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and hopefully just mature the character model a bit more, just to give Peter Parker that kind of worn and torn look that you would expect from a vetted Spider-Man who has been like this for 9+ years now at this point after Miles Morales, who is 24 years old by the end of that game and maybe might be older by the time the sequel comes around. So if by any chance Insomniac can visually mature Ben Jordan's character model as Peter Parker by the time we do see Marvel's Spider-Man 2 in action, then I will personally at the very least be a bit more reassured to see exactly what type of performance we can expect with the visual portrayal of Peter Parker from Ben Jordan, and of course Yuri Lowenthal's amazing voice acting as the character of Peter Parker himself. And the second big factor that we can take away from Ben's post is that it does appear that Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is now fully in production. Before, I do think it was safe to say, given the interview that we did have with Yuri Lowenthal, that there wasn't a whole lot of reassurance to see exactly how far along Insomniac Games might be with gaining relatively important assets like that of the motion capture to fully try and render characters in certain scenes of the game. Still, given the current work that they are doing with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and obviously the setup that we did see from Miles Morales, a sequel is surely inevitable. It's just that we don't officially know how far along Insomniac is with making the game in its entirety. So if by any chance that means that we could potentially see the release of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 either in sometime in late 2022 or mid to late 2023, I just can't wait to see exactly what Insomniac could actually showcase for the game by the time it is fully only running on PlayStation 5 hardware and nothing else. And of course, this leads to the biggest question that we have on all of our minds right now, is when exactly could we expect a full reveal for Marvel's Spider-Man 2? Well, as it turns out right now, Insomniac Games is very close to releasing their next upcoming PlayStation 5 exclusive game with none other than Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which in my opinion looks flat out amazing and definitely wants to make me buy a PlayStation 5 even sooner. Although we do know that even within Insomniac's studio, there are different development teams working on different projects, one of which currently being Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and the other one with the Spider-Man team most likely working on the sequel to that project. And of course, like we already know, Brian Intihar is in fact going to return in his position as creative director to work on the official Marvel Spider-Man sequel. And if you have been keeping up with the Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart updates, you would know that the game is scheduled to release on June 11th. What occurs the next day after that is actually E3 2021, ranging from June 12th to June 15th. However, it is confirmed that Sony themselves as a company is not going to be attending E3 to showcase any massive PlayStation updates. But at the same time, around the E3 period, we could see a PlayStation State of Play that could showcase upcoming games that could be shown off alongside of the other massive titles that are scheduled to be debuting during E3. And even though that might be just a bit too soon, directly coming after Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart's release to then directly showcase the next massive project that Insomniac is working on with Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We have talked about this in the past, that Marvel Games is truly in a really interesting situation right now, where they do need a pretty much home run title to get people back invested into their current projects. We love Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, but we currently have some massive issues going on right now with the status of Marvel's Avengers not really cutting it in terms of development costs for Marvel and just Square Enix in general, but Sony Interactive Entertainment is of course banking on the success of Insomniac Games with the future of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and of course the future of the Marvel Spider-Man franchise with the inevitable sequel. And I do break all of this down to simply say the sooner that Insomniac actually reveals that they are in fact officially working on Marvel Spider-Man 2, the better it will be for everyone involved, mainly for Marvel and PlayStation, and mainly, of course, us, the fans at hand. But with all that said, everyone, that is the video that I have for you today. I do find Ben Jordan's post very exciting, even though I do have my reservations about his particular character model of Peter Parker. It's just really awesome to see that he is invested in the project as a whole, and hopefully that will be fully reflected by the time we see him return as Peter Parker within Marvel Spider-Man 2. But until next time, everyone, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so that way you can be fully updated to any future Marvel Spider-Man 2 news that we may receive from either Ben Jordan himself, Insomniac Games, Yuri Lowenthal, Marvel, and or PlayStation. I'll be your guy to deliver all that in the future. But until then, stay spectacular, Spidey fans. Peace out.